Let me tell you a story about the day my wife became the new police chief of our county and the day an HOA Karen made the stupidest decision of her life. See, my wife doesn't brag. She doesn't wear her uniform home. She doesn't announce her promotion. She just does her job quietly, professionally, calmly, which is why this whole thing is so funny. Because the one woman who hated us the most, the one neighbor who made it her personal mission to run the neighborhood, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, decided she was going to make an example out of my wife. She just didn't know who she was dealing with. And when she called the cops, thinking she would embarrass my wife, she accidentally called the officers who now worked for her. And what happened after that? Let's just say the HOA hasn't been the same since. When my wife and I moved into the neighborhood, we thought we found paradise. Quiet streets, clean sidewalks, and a small, tight community. Everything seemed perfect until the HOA president introduced herself. Her real name was Linda, but everyone called her Karen behind her back. And honestly, to her face sometimes, she had the haircut, she had the sunglasses, she had the attitude, and most importantly, she had the belief that she was the most important person to ever walk this earth. She walked over to our yard with a clipboard tucked under her arm like a weapon. "Hello, I'm the HOA president. I make the rules around here. No welcome, no greeting, no friendliness, just pure power trip energy." My wife just smiled politely. "Nice to meet you." Karen didn't smile back. Instead, she scanned us up and down like she was TSA security. Then she said the one line that set the tone for everything that would follow. "I hope you two won't cause trouble. This neighborhood is peaceful, and I intend to keep it that way." Then she walked away. My wife turned to me and whispered, "That's the kind of person who gets humbled by life eventually." She had no idea how right she'd be. Karen became obsessed with monitoring my wife. Now my wife works long hours. As police chief, she handles calls at all hours. Nights, early mornings, weekends. She comes home exhausted. Sometimes she sleeps during the day because she spent the whole night running operations. But Karen didn't know any of that. All she saw was a woman who didn't attend HOA meetings, didn't socialize, and didn't answer the door instantly whenever Karen felt like knocking. In Karen's mind, this was a crime worse than arson. She would come over while my wife was asleep and bang on the door with her clipboard. She'd leave notes like, "You missed yard inspection. Your grass is half an inch too tall. We need to discuss community safety measures." Every time my wife ignored her, not to be rude, but because she literally couldn't hear the door while resting after 18-hour shifts. Karen didn't understand that, or maybe she didn't want to understand. To her, ignoring her was personal, and she decided she'd teach my wife a lesson. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. My wife came home after a 3-night operation dealing with a major case. She was exhausted, barely ate, barely slept. She walked into the house, kicked off her boots, and collapsed on the couch. I covered her with a blanket and left her to rest. But about half an hour later, bang, bang, bang. Karen was at the door, not knocking, pounding. I opened it slightly and said, "She's sleeping. Come back another time." Karen pushed her sunglasses down like she was a detective in a bad TV show. "No, she's avoiding HOA contact. That's a violation. I demand she steps outside." "She's literally asleep," I said. Karen raised her chin dramatically. "People who sleep during the day have something to hide." I stared at her. "Karen, please." She cut me off. "I'm giving her a final warning. If she doesn't come out, I'm calling the police for non-compliance." I laughed. "You're calling the police because someone doesn't answer your knock?" Karen crossed her arms. "Yes, and they will deal with her." And then she marched away. I thought she was bluffing. She wasn't. 10 minutes later, 2 police SUVs rolled into the neighborhood. Lights on, sirens off, serious faces. Karen ran up to them dramatically, waving her arms. "Officers, officers, She's in there refusing to answer the door. She's a danger to the community. My wife woke up because of the commotion. She opened her eyes, confused. I said, "Honey, you're not going to believe this." Before I could finish the sentence, there was a knock, a gentle one this time. My wife stood up, still half asleep, and opened the door. The officers saw her and instantly straightened up. "Chief?" one of them said. Karen froze. "Chief? What chief? She's the one causing trouble." The officer cleared his throat. "Ma'am, she's our boss." The silence that followed was beautiful. Karen blinked like she just saw an alien. What do you mean, boss? She's nobody. She doesn't even attend HOA meetings." My wife stood there calmly. "Ma'am, I'm the newly appointed police chief of this county. Is there a reason you called my officers?" Karen stuttered. I, I, She ignored my knock. My wife turned to the officers. "Is that an emergency?" "No, chief." "Is that a crime?" "No, chief." "Is there any reason for your presence here?" "No, chief." She nodded. "Good. Then file this as a false report and issue her a misdemeanor citation for misuse of emergency services." Karen gasped. "You can't do that." My wife stepped closer. "I can, and I will, because calling the police for your personal power trips wastes resources needed for real emergencies." Karen's face drained of color. The officers handed her the citation. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. It was the first time I'd ever seen her speechless. After that day, Karen lost almost all her authority. People in the neighborhood whispered, "She called the cops on the police chief? Is she insane?" She finally messed with the wrong person. The HOA board held a vote. Karen was removed as president. Apparently, misusing emergency services and embarrassing the HOA on public record wasn't great PR. She tried to get revenge by filing more complaints, but the board ignored her. She eventually moved out, and peace finally returned to the neighborhood. My wife never bragged about what happened. She just smiled and said, "Sometimes the best justice is just telling the truth." And that's how HOA Karen tried to use the police as her personal enforcement team, without knowing she was calling the cops on the police chief herself. You can't make this stuff up.